Oh yeah, so many people are going to be talking about this album for sure this year because it feels like, it's the return of Jedi of deathcore bands with this latest album from Whitechapel, and I'm hoping to, give out my opinion on it, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So, hey, what's up, everyone? It's me, Matt from Diazgo, coming at you with a new album review. I talk about music and other things that are music related. So, thank you for coming on by. Today, I am checking out the latest album from Whitechapel called Hymns of Dissonance. Whitechapel is an American deathcore band based out of Knoxville, Tennessee, and has been a band since about 2006. I discovered them when they dropped their second album, This Is Exile, about 2008, 2009, and that definitely blew my mind in terms of like, whoa, bands can sound this heavy. It was incredible listening to that album and being around at that time in terms of watching them play live and just death metal, deathcore scene at that time. And I think a lot of people have said it before. I've heard it a few times. They're one of the big four of deathcore in from the MySpace era. I think in general speaking, it was like Whitechapel, I think for sure Suicide Silence. Oh, who are the other two that could fit those slots? I guess All Shall Perish. They're pretty good and big up in there, even though they kind of fell off a little bit. And I guess the last one, I guess because they don't want to be called that, but I think they fit in there pretty well. And they're one of my favorite bands, the Acacia Strand. I feel like most people would say that those are like the big four. There might be another one. I mean, maybe not the Acacia Strand. I think somebody else, because the Acacia Strand didn't get as big as these bands, but still, that's a different story for another day. But with this latest album, oh, it's a return to form, baby. With this latest album from Whitechapel, I feel like they are one pushing like the deathcore sound to new heights while also bringing back their old style from, This Is Exile and a new era of Corruption in terms of just being really heavy, really groovy, no clean vocals, straight disgusting, vile vocals, and a haunting atmosphere and a lot of technical precision. Like it's weird. Like they're like, they're coming back with their old stuff, but still like pushing harder and making deathcore sound heavier than ever. Like with the opening song, Prisoner 666, the way that the guitars are being strummed and played here, they have a very groovy feel to it that is very reminiscent of This Is Exile. Also, the way his vocal style feels, vocals just sound amazing, and he was able to tap in and just channel that old, This Is Exile, that old Whitechapel style. And I feel like that experimental phase they've had for a couple of years and everything, they kind of got that out and everything. And so they're like, let's bring it back. And they knocked it out of the park in terms of tapping into that energy. So I want to play a clip of Prisoner 666 so you get a sense of the thunderous drums, the bold riffs, and just the overall old vibes they have here. It's the combination of how the groovy the riffs are and just his vocal delivery here. It blew my mind. It's like, yo, they really getting that old school Whitechapel vibes on here. I think what really helps here is that, like back in the day, he was able to do a lot of switching between like really demonic, heavy bouncing flows with some real death metal ferocity. And he was able to really capture it again on this track and on most of the tracks on this album. While, they have some real fast and technical solos to add a lot of depth to the track. So it's a very, very good opening song. Then you have the title track here, Hymns of Dissonance, that just amplifies their intensity with massive riffs, powerful drums, and just, again, impressive vocal work from Phil. And I like that they brought in elements of thrash on this particular track because at the end of the song, there's like a dueling thrashy solo here that gives the song a nice edge. And they just finish things off with a huge and stylish breakdown. And I think Diabolical Slumber and Prisoner 666, they echo each other in terms of having really eerie riffs that have huge chuggy riff parts to them that just sound massive and just diabolical with the epic solos they have on this track. So it's a cool contrast that Diabolical Slumber, Prisoner 666 have a lot of similarities. Then we segue into A Visceral Wretch, one of the first singles for this album and one of the first reactions I did to Whitechapel. I'll put a link into that later. And the riffs on here are super dense, but the vocals here, they sound like a black hole, and they just suffocating you and suck you into like a pit of evil. Like, his vocals are just so unmatched with this album. It's ridiculous. So here's a clip of Visceral Wretch for you. Like, how can someone sound so heavy vocally? The next track's Ex Furnace really builds upon that dark atmosphere they've created on this album by also adding some bold rim shot playing on the drums that invoke a sense of feeling like you're marching into battle, and it's just like something out from Lord of the Rings in terms of just sounding really epic and like nasty. The drum work on this particular song is really good. The mood of the album kind of shifts on the next track, which is Hate Cult Ritual, and things get a little bit more hypnotic and groovy, while the song The Abyssal Gospel brings back the slow, chuggy grooves mixed with some really tight and thrashy drums. And in a weird way, on this song, Abyssal Gospel, they create like a Hatebreed style like drum and guitar play for a short time that just sounds incredible. Like, when you hear this, you can't deny that they weren't influenced by Hatebreed a little bit. So I want to play a clip of The Abysmal Gospel for you, so you get the sense of those Hatebreed style riffs and vocals and drums. Tell me that doesn't remind you of Hatebreed. Then you have Bedlam that really keeps the heaviness going by adding some real low and precise sounding drums and bass that really anchor the whole like heaviness and relentless sound of the band. While Phil continues, he never lets up on his vocals. He just is giving his all here. I've never heard him sound just so tapped in before. They slow things down a bit to build up a more menacing and haunting atmosphere with pullback guitars and fiery drums on the song Mammoth God. The final track on this album, Nothing Is Coming for Any of Us, caps the album off with a very massive and heavy sound that just really just shows how cohesive and intense the band is with this album. Like, they're not like dropping in quality on this record at all. They've maintained a very good, consistent sound, with the vocals being huge, the riffs being dense and massive, drums being precise and devastating, and bass that's just really heavy and just keeping the band really anchored and flowing well. The pacing, production, everything, quite phenomenal. So this latest album from Whitechapel, I think, has done a really good job of successfully blending huge breakdowns that are massive and brutal, groovy riffs, and just atmospheric depth. The whole album has a very cohesive and good flow to it, and I think it's a great way that they were able to showcase their evolution in terms of like still pushing the deathcore genre forward while also bringing back so many of their like well-known elements that just sound familiar, refreshing, and just everything just seemed to be hitting just the right notes, the right timing on this album. And you just see so much growth and just so much like care for where they're coming from in terms of showing their old style and just showing raw power that has just defined their sound. I was thoroughly impressed with this album, and I think if you're a big fan of deathcore, Whitechapel, you're going to be blown away by this album, and I think it deserves a nice and solid 9.5 out of 10. I feel like a lot of people are going to be talking about this album this year in terms of the death metal, deathcore scene, because this album, intense, amazing, bringing it back. Whitechapel for the win. Links down below. Check them out. And like always, I will see you in the pit.